The Australian government announced a new visa called Skilled in Demand Visa, which allows foreign workers to work and live in Australia for a maximum of 4 years, and that's a solid PR pathway. Hi, my name is Johnny. I'm a migration lawyer in Sydney, and I post daily content on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts, and to help people like you to get PR faster. Now, let's talk about the 482 Skills in Demand Visa, and I do consultation on a daily basis, and a lot of people still get a little bit confused. So let's do a quick long form videos to recap on what you need to do. Now, when it comes to the Skills in Demand Visa, it is a visa that has a maximum of 4 years duration, which the actual duration is determined by the employer themselves. If the employer want to give you 1 year, they can, but they can only give you a maximum of 4 years. And with the 4 years visa, you can live, work in Australia. Your partner can live, work, and study in Australia without restriction. So the main applicant will need to continue working for the sponsor, and while the secondary applicant, which is your wife or your spouse, your de facto partner, does not. However, the partner can work unlimited hours and do whatever the person want to do. Study or work, that's fine. Also, it allows you to bring your kids to come to Australia as well. Most states offer free educations for the dependents, like children of the 482 visa holders. So isn't that a good thing, right? Now, when it comes to the Skills in Demand Visa, there are 3 streams in order to go through. You got to pick one of them, okay? So there's a specialist skill pathway, which requires you to have an annual salary of $135,000 plus superannuation, which is the salary that your employer is going to give you when you come to Australia or when the work has started. And that's the specialist skill pathway. It has the annual salary requirements, but it offers really fast processing time, and it allows people to be sponsored relatively easily because it does not have an occupation list, meaning anyone on any list can be sponsored. However, there are 3 exemptions. Number 1 is the occupations can't be machine operators. Number 2, it can't be laborers. Number 3, it can't be tradies. So who can be sponsored under the 482 specialist skill pathway? Basically anyone who can earn $135,000 a year or more as of today of this video. And remember, this salary amount actually get adjusted every financial year. So the next adjustment would be the 1st of July 2025 in a few months time. And the other pathway, the second pathway, which is the most popular pathway, is called this core skilled pathway. The core skilled pathway requires the employee to be paid at least $73,150 plus superannuation per year, at least. However, apart from the salary, the employee's nominated occupation must be on the core skilled occupation list, which is a completely new list proposed by the government and started in November last year, which contained 300 something occupation on there. And the processing time comparing to the specialist skill pathway is a bit longer. The specialist skill pathway, they promised to have 7 days, but now is longer. And the core skill pathway, I would expect 21 days to 2 months. And number 3 is called the labor agreement stream. When it comes to the labor agreement stream, it is very unique because it actually depends on the terms and conditions of your labor agreement. There are 3 major types of labor agreement. There's a company specific labor agreement tailored for specific companies, and it takes a long time to go through. The other one is DAMA, which is Designated Area Migration Agreement, which is quite a long name, so we call them DAMA. The famous one would be the Western Australian DAMA, the South Australian DAMA, the Northern Territory DAMA. Number 3 would be the industry-specific labor agreement, which allows companies in specific industries to apply for a labor agreement and get a uniform concessions. So the most famous one would be the aged care industry labor agreement and also the meat industry labor agreement. Now, how to apply? So it sounds very simple. You just get a job and then you earn a particular salaries and that's it, right? But number 1 requirement is to get an employer, which can be the hardest. Finding a job is one thing, but finding an employer who is willing to sponsor you on a visa and go through all the processes can be a different thing. So the employer will need to be a standard business sponsor or an accredited business sponsor before they can nominate. So once they become a valid sponsor for a visa, then they will need to nominate you for a 4H2 skill in demand visa in the Skill Connect portal. That we call a nomination. What it means is that the employer is basically putting you forward to the Department of Home Affairs saying that I have identified this person and I want to sponsor him or her on this particular visa. Then the department go away and think about whether or not they want to give you a nomination. If the department approved it, then the visa applicant can lodge a visa. Okay? But of course, when there's a situation that's very urgent, we don't have to wait for the nomination results before we launch the visa. So that's a completely different story. Now, also, when it comes to 482 skill in demand visa, there's no age requirements. You can be 50 years old, 55 years old, it doesn't matter. However, you got to be mindful. If you're wanting to get a permanent residency visa afterwards, the cutoff for the permanent residency visa, which is the 186 permanent residency visa, the cutoff is at 45 years old. You have to be under 45 years old, otherwise you won't be able to apply for a permanent residency visa through the skills in demand visa, unless there are exemptions. For example, you're holding a 482 visas and you have a valid Hong Kong passport, you can go through the Hong Kong pathway. And if you are sponsored through the 482 labor agreement stream, then you can potentially go through the labor agreement stream's age concession if the agreement provides for that. The age concession means that you can still apply for permanent residency visa as long if you're over 45 but under 55. So last but not least, there's a work experience requirement comes with it. You must have at least 1 year of full-time work experience in the past 5 years. It can be gained inside or outside of Australia, it doesn't matter, but it must have 1 year full-time. You can prorate it if you gain it through part-time employment or casual employment, it doesn't matter. The number 2 requirement is you must perform the work at the appropriate skill level. What it means is that, say you are being sponsored as an accountant, you can't be working at a lower skilled jobs. For example, you're working as a payroll officer, even though it involves a little bit of accounting here and there, but it is deemed as a low skill. So you can't use the work experience gained as a payroll officer to apply to meet the work experience requirements as an accountant. And number 3 would be the qualification requirements. And you must have the appropriate qualification in order to get through. So say, for example, you are a cook, then you must have a cookery certificate. Or if you don't have a cookery certificate, there are 2 ways to do it. So say you have worked for so many years and then that particular occupation allows you to use work experience to substitute formal qualification, then that would do as well. Or if you just have the skills but you can't really prove it, you can go through the recognition of prior learning. So that's something that we can also discuss in our future video. I hope I have provided a really condensed and precise skills in demand visa requirements. And for employees, in my next video, I'm going to talk about what's the skills in demand visa for employer. And if you have questions, put it in the comment sections and hit the like button and also share it with your friends. And I will see you in our next episode. Bye.